monthly basis as a result of the extension of time under this bill. Therefore, it's at least £8 billion from the period. Now it's being extended by a further 3 months, and that's even more money.
Extremely obliged to the honourable gentleman for his point of order, and I'll attempt briefly to respond to each of the important points that he legitimately raises. First of all, in terms of timing, it seems to me that there are two senses in which that concern can be aired and needs to be answered. The honourable gentleman, if I understood the terms of his point of order correctly, was focused in particular on the issue of time in the sense of lack of it for members to study the bill and to table amendments. My response to that is to say the following. First of all, the honourable gentleman is a quite remarkably experienced, skilled and dexterous parliamentarian. Now, admittedly, not everybody has his level of experience, skill or dexterity, but I know that he wouldn't imagine that that of which he is capable is completely beyond everybody else. In other words, if everybody else has got the opportunity to study the bill and to come to a view about whether they wish to table amendments to a bill whose basic subject matter was well known to them, they would be able to do that probably at least closely to his own level of acceptability, his own standard. That's the first point. The second point on timing is that, of course, it is intended that the bill will go through all stages today, but of course there are several precedents for that, and those bills have ordinarily been government bills and very often concerning Northern Ireland, but it is unusual, I accept. What it isn't is in any sense disorderly. The honourable gentleman has raised very important questions about money resolution and Queen's consent. Yes, this bill is different, but I have, of course, consulted the Clerk of Legislation and other senior clerks on whose procedural expertise we regularly call. My ruling on Wednesday, the 3rd of April 2019, in respect of the earlier bill which the honourable gentleman referenced, was at column 1131 that the European Union Withdrawal Number 5 bill did not require either a Ways and Means motion or of the Treaty on the European Union would continue the state of the EU for the period of the extension, which would of course have substantial consequences both for spending and for taxation. Or little one of the bill before us today would require exit day to be moved to match any extension agreed with the European Council. The financial resolutions passed on Monday the 11th of September 2017 give fully adequate cover for the exercise by ministers of their powers under Section 23 and 24 of the European Union Withdrawal Act 2018 to move exit day in order to keep in lockstep with the date for the expiry of the European treaties, which of course is determined by Article 50 of the Treaty on European Union. So far as Queen's consent is concerned, my ruling on Wednesday the 3rd of April at column 1130 was that as no prerogative consent was required for the European Union notification of withdrawal bill in 2017, giving parliamentary authority to the Prime Minister of the Treaty on European Union, there was no requirement for new and separate prerogative consent to be sought for legislation in 2019 on what further action the Prime Minister should take under the same Article 50 of the Treaty on European Union. The bill before us today could require the Prime Minister to seek and accept an extension in certain circumstances. The European Council to decide unanimously to agree to an extension with the UK. In these circumstances, and I say this on the basis of professional advice, my guided in these matters by House rules in respect of Queen's consent, it would be a mistake that they are extrapolated from or dependent upon interpretation of the kind that the Right Honourable Gentleman has referenced. We have our own in relation to Queen's consent, and what I am saying is consistent with those procedures. I will certainly reflect further on the point. Isn't something which has a bearing of the bill. Point of order, Mr. David.
Further to that same point of order, Mr. Speaker, advice on this. You may remember that the last time that a bill was put through the House at this speed was the Data Retention Investigatory Powers Act, done relatively quickly, supposedly under the pressure of the government of the day needing that law. That act was effectively overturned in court in Davis and Watson versus the Home Secretary of the day, Prime Minister. And part of the argument that I'm sure affected the judges was the speed with which the House came to decisions on matters of fundamental constitutional importance. Have you taken advice from Speaker's Council as to the robustness of the legislation in front of us today in the face of such judicial challenge?
It's not ordinarily the case that the courts look at how we make our decisions. There's quite an established principle of comity with the courts, and that principle is that our procedures are respected, and in turn we respect those of the courts. I will, as I say, very happily reflect further on the Right Honourable Gentleman's point, as upon that member for Chingford and Woodford Green, but I'm entirely comfortable leading in a proper way. I ought to say to the right honourable gentleman that, of course, I'm conscious, as every member is, that there are different opinions about the merits of the procedure being followed today, as there are different opinions about the merits of the procedure followed yesterday and the procedure followed at the bill introduced by the right honourable lady, the member for Normanton, Pontefract and Castleford. But those are matters of political dispute, not, in my judgment, of rule observance or procedural propriety. We are proceeding in a proper manner. That manner may offend of some members, but that doesn't make it improper. It may mean simply that it is distasteful for the right honourable gentleman. And I am sorry if that is the case, but it doesn't mean that he's made a valid point of a procedural character. I'm so fond of the honourable gentleman. I have such a high respect for him. I'll take one more, but after that we really must proceed. Point of order, William.
I understand before us is trying, as they see best, to act in the national interests and in the interests of their constituents. The problem, the reason why we are here today, is of course that each of us has a slightly different view of what those best interests. So I hope that we can debate this bill in what is, I recognise, a very short amount of time. And if I may respond to the point, I could do no better than to quote the honourable member for West Dorset, who on the 3rd of April in the House said, "It could only be done at high speed because there is no time left." And I think wherever we stand on this issue, we know there is very little time left, and following the prorogation, there is even less time than would have been available previously. And therefore, I hope that we will treat each other, recognise with respect and consideration during this debate. Now, the purpose of the bill is very simple. It is to ensure that the United Kingdom does not leave the European Union on the 31st of October without an agreement. The bill has wide cross-party support. Can I say it's a great pleasure to be just above on the order list, the Honourable Member for North East Bedfordshire, and it is backed by members who have very different views on how the matter of Brexit should finally be resolved, including members who until very recently were senior members of the Cabinet. Now, you could describe it as a somewhat unlikely alliance, but what unites us is a mandate for no deal, and that the consequences consequences for the economy and for our country would be highly damaging. Those supporting the bill believe that no deal is not in the national interest. Of course I will give way.
Quick question, if I may, and I thank the right honourable gentleman for giving way. When he talks about no deal, there are multiple sector deals. So does he not see those sector deals as being multiple deals in their own right?
Well, I don't know where these sector deals are. Yes. My concern and the reason for this bill and the support that I hope it will enjoy in the House today is because the Prime Minister has made it absolutely clear that he is prepared to leave on the 31st of October without a deal. And those of us who I hope will support the bill today do not wish that to happen. I will give way.
Would you agree that, in a sense, with these debates going on for long periods of time, many of us have tried to learn lessons from them, and in that process people have changed their mind or their order of importance to prevent a no-deal Brexit? One of the amendments today is to give people another look at what we might call the May proposal, where people turned it down they might have voted differently. Might I ask, given with all the rush look at that amendment by my honourable friend, the member by Aberfan, which now has quite
Well, I've not had a chance to read the final version, and it will be tabled with the clerks during the course of this second reading of the amendments, and I completely understand what my honourable friends continue to delay taking a decision. I shall come back to that point later in my speech, and I will of course listen to the debate that follows during committee stage. I would just say this, however, that the of the reason has been made clear by the leader of the Labour Party, my right honourable friend, and the Shadow Brexit Secretary and others, because we must deal with first things first, and preventing a no-deal Brexit is the central, most important question facing the country.
I'm very grateful to my an election at this stage or even next week undermines the purpose of this legislation, and we can't support it.
Well, I can only agree, and I'm very grateful to the honourable gentleman for being one of the sponsors of the bill. I will take one more intervention at this stage because there are many people who want to speak. Time is short, indeed.
I'm very grateful to Right Honourable Gentleman, and can I applaud his call for respect on all sides, because we just need to calm down this whole debate. I voted for the deal twice. He voted against the deal 3 times, presumably because he thought it was not in the best interests of this country. So how does he think this procedure offer from the EU that might actually tempt him into voting something because it's even in the better interest of the UK than what has gone before? How can that possibly come about by this procedure?
Well, the reason why I voted against the deal 3 times was not to do with the withdrawal agreement, the legally binding treaty. It was to do with the nature of the political of clarity about where the then Prime Minister. That's my view, and other members have got different views. If I could bring this back honourable members will forgive me, I'm not going to give way further at this point. I have been reasonably generous, and I am conscious of the time. The evidence before us about the consequences of no deal, it's really important that we acknowledge that, because it is the fundamental reason behind the bill. As we heard from my right honourable friend, the member for Pontefract, Normanton and Castleford, when she moved her bill earlier this year, it was reported that the Cabinet Secretary and the National Security Advisor, Sir Mark Sedwill, had told the previous Cabinet that no deal would make our country less safe. To the Cabinet, we ought to pay attention. All of us have seen the government's own economic assessment that makes it clear that no deal will cause the greatest loss to the economy. We know that Make UK, for example, the body that represents British manufacturing industry, have described no deal as an act of economic vandalism. And since we last debated the question of an extension, new information has come to light about the consequences of no deal. The government itself has now admitted that there would be damage to companies. Why? Because they've said they're prepared to compensate certain businesses and industries, which is the first time in my experience the government has advocated a policy that they know will do economic damage. If I could just finish this point. And Operation Yellowhammer, the report that was published in the Sunday Times, talked about the potential for protests, for significant delays, for lorries at Dover and other ports, and we heard very powerful evidence in the Brexit Select Committee, a potential impact on medicines, decrease in the supply of fresh foods and price rises, impact on petrol refineries, huge uncertainty for businesses, serious damage to farmers, and in some ways, given the progress that Northern Ireland have made in the last 20 years, most worrying of all, expressing the view
respected bodies, the Health Foundation, the Nuffield Trust and the King's Fund have written an open letter to all MPs setting out in very stark terms there would be significant damage to health and care services from a no deal, and more importantly to people who depend on them, people that we're supposed to be here in this house to protect.
Well, I agree with the Honourable Lady, and I would simply say, and other members will have lots of other experience of the potential consequences, these are not risks that I think we should take with our economy, our businesses, our jobs, our livelihoods and our health. And I hope they remind everyone in the House today that for all the focus on process and motions and procedure, this is about the impact that a no-deal Brexit would have on the lives of the people we represent. I will, of course, give way.
I thank the right honourable gentleman for giving way. And isn't that the point, that while I can understand there is a political imperative to get this done, close quotes, to move on, close quotes, the practical imperative is that no deal doesn't allow us to move on. It resolves nothing, and it leads to many of the implications that he talked about. And if we have no withdrawal agreement on the 31st of October, what we have to do on the 1st of November is seek a withdrawal agreement.
The Honourable Gentleman is absolutely right. And in a lot of this debate, we haven't discussed anything like enough what happens the other side of the 31st of October if the Prime Minister is able to get his way. And I shall come to that point in a moment. I will give way.
For giving way, General. What he's bill today does, and what he's doing is trying to prolong no damage as far as the 31st of January and make UK absolutely correct. Anything else but the current deal we've got will damage the economy. But the best way, and we've all got to get our heads around this, the best way to stop any damage at all is to revoke Article 50. I've laid an amendment to that end with a helpful letter in the schedule. It needs one signature, that of the Prime Minister. And this nightmare is over in that length of time.
Well, I disagree respectfully with the Honourable Gentleman, because I think just as no deal is unacceptable, in my opinion, I think revocation, which is basically saying let's cancel the whole result of the referendum, is not acceptable either. I've expressed previously in the House my view about how we should resolve this by going back to the people, but other members have different views. That is not the issue for today. I will give way to my honourable friend and then my other honourable friend, and then I am going to progress.
I'm very grateful to the right honourable gentleman for giving way, and if I may say, particularly grateful to the right honourable gentleman for the way in which he's chairing his Brexit Select Committee and taking this vital evidence. Isn't that really the point of over and above this bill? That this is precisely the sort of work that should be done. Questions should be laid in and asked of ministers. This place should be making sure that we are ready for any no deal, and yet what we're seeing is we're being closed down next week, when in fact we should be sitting, asking the questions, and his committee and others should be able to do their valuable work.